In the aftermath of World War II, Europe lay in ruins. The victors, now divided by ideology, split Germany into 4 occupation zones: American, British, French, and Soviet. The city of Berlin, although deep in the Soviet zone, was also divided into 4 sectors. Tensions between the Allies and the Soviets mounted, and soon these tensions would erupt into one of the first major crises of the Cold War: the Berlin blockade. On June 24, 1948, Soviet forces blockaded all land and rail routes to West Berlin. The Soviets aimed to force the Western Allies out of the city and consolidate control over all of Berlin. Suddenly, over 2 million Berliners were cut off from vital supplies, including food, coal, and medicine. The situation was dire. Many feared that West Berlin would fall to Soviet pressure or that a military conflict could erupt. The Allies, however, had a different plan. Instead of withdrawing, the Western Allies decided to supply the city entirely by air, a monumental task that many thought was impossible. On June 26, 1948, the Berlin Airlift began. American and British planes began delivering supplies to Tempelhof, Gatow, and Tegel airports in West Berlin. At first, the operation struggled. The planes flew day and night, but the amount of goods delivered wasn't enough to sustain the city. As the operation gained momentum, it earned the nickname Operation Vittles for the American effort and Operation Plainfare for the British. A massive logistical network was created. Pilots flew around the clock, landing every 3 minutes at Berlin's airfields. They brought in food, fuel, clothing, and even Christmas gifts. More than 200,000 flights were made in total. The airlift wasn't just about logistics, it was also a show of solidarity. The sight of C-47 and C-54 cargo planes arriving gave hope to the citizens of West Berlin. Many saw the effort as a symbol of freedom in the face of Soviet oppression. The Berliners themselves showed remarkable resilience. Despite power shortages, rationing, and the ever-present fear of Soviet intervention, the people of West Berlin held on. Families braved the harsh winters without heating, and children greeted incoming planes with joy, often receiving candy from pilots, a practice that gave rise to the candy bomber legend. Daily life was a struggle, but the airlift brought enough supplies to keep the population going. And for the Western Allies, this was about more than just food. It was a fight for the future of Europe. The Soviet Union tried to counter the airlift, launching propaganda campaigns and spreading rumors to sow distrust. They claimed the airlift would fail, and even staged provocations, flying their own planes close to the airlift routes. But they underestimated the determination of the Allies and the people of West Berlin. The longer the airlift continued, the more the blockade seemed futile. After nearly a year of sustained efforts, the Soviet Union finally lifted the blockade on May 12, 1949. The Berlin airlift had succeeded, and West Berlin remained free. By the time the blockade ended, over 2.3 million tons of supplies had been flown into the city. The operation not only saved Berlin, but also became a defining moment in the early Cold War. The Berlin airlift was more than a logistical triumph. It became a powerful symbol of the Western commitment to defending freedom in Europe. It solidified the bond between the Allies and West Berlin, laying the groundwork for NATO and the Western alliance against Soviet expansion. In the years that followed, the airlift would be remembered as one of the first victories in the Cold War, showing that determination, cooperation, and courage could overcome even the most formidable challenges.